This is a show I pulled from the archives because of the response I've seen on various websites devoted to Sasquatch, Bigfoot, disappointment with the movie Sasquatch Sunset. Unfortunately, Kathleen Jones Odom died in 2018, but this interview was a keeper. She was an interspecies communicator, Sasquatch communicator. She was also consultant for the film Letters from the Big Man. It's a beautiful film by Christopher Munch, and if you have a chance, check it out. I do have links in the description for the show. It gives a different perspective of Sasquatch, and Kathleen, as a Sasquatch experiencer, has her own perspective as well. So that's why I think it's important to at least revisit this interview. I had two interviews. This is the one that got saved. Here's Kathleen.
They rarely show themselves to someone who is not at least, tweaked an opening in their heart. It's all about heart with them.
Kathleen Jones Odom. She's a trance medium, a shamanic practitioner, somebody who has had up close and personal experiences with Sasquatch. And Sasquatch is telepathic. That's one of the things that if you are sensitive, you may have a better chance of connecting. And you don't have to leave home. This is one of those consciousness things. If you want to make a connection, you can do that. Hey, Kathleen, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm in the midst of about 6 dogs right now, and we'll see my test as an interspecies communicator if they can be quiet. I've had a little preliminary chat with them, but they just got done howling and knew it wasn't Sasquatch. It was 6 corgi dogs, but anyway.
The interspecies communication, that involves all animals?
All beings. Yeah, it does. Interspecies communication. I connect with, there's no species that's accepted. I've talked to ants, and I've talked to giraffes and, deer out in the wild, and then, of course, domestic animals. The bulk of my practice is domestic animals, but I work with all of them.
Now, how does it work for you? Do you get images? Do you get language? What I know it's asking you to generalize it is not fair, but what would be the best way to
Well, I get language, but it's not language quite. Well, sometimes I do get really strong words that like we speak, but by and large, it's like feelings that are so strong, I cannot deny them. They give me vision a lot.
Yeah.
That's probably the bulk of the way they communicate with me is with visions. And, I'm not on psychedelic whatevers.
Right.
I mean, it's from the animals. And, yeah, basically it's visions, but it is words and it's feelings. And sometimes I get smells. I'm clairvoyant sensitive, but basically it's visions, Wendy, if you want to nail it down to one main thing. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I've heard from people who try to teach the animal communication classes. The first thing that you might want to practice is seeing pictures, seeing images, because that's kind of a starting point to be able to pick up. So it sounds like it's right on track.
Yeah, that's right.
When you deal, how long? Because we're getting into the Sasquatch. How long have you been able to connect with Sasquatch?
Well, my first physical connection with them was when I was probably 7 or 8 years old at our summer cabin up by Mount Lassen. I grew up on a farm in the Sacramento Valley in California, and we had a summer cabin in the Mount Lassen semi-wilderness, I guess you'd say, in the Cascade Mountains. And I did interact with them physically, especially the young ones there. And but I didn't. And then I began a spirit path in 1973, and so with meditation and some other spirit work. And I did not connect psychically, telepathically with the Sasquatch officially until probably 2005. That's when I started my professional practice. I had retired from a professional business career in 1996 after a near-death experience, and really started doing my spirit work full time, and it really evolved into interspecies communication. And then I renewed my connection with the Sasquatch people, and one thing led to another. I moved from Hawaii in 1999 into I had purchased a ranch out in the very rural Siskiyou Mountains in southern Oregon, and it immediately began not only physically connecting with them, but just telepathically. It really expanded, and I incorporated it into my spirit medicine practice professionally in 2005. So I've been doing consultations, facilitating communication with them since that time.
I wanted to talk about the NDE that got you back, kind of, redirected your path.
What would you like to know about it, Wendy?
Obviously, you're still here. Did you get a direction? Did it say you have to do this, or you might do this, or what? Because you changed. You changed.
Oh, yeah, it was a life transformational experience, no question about it. I had a spirit medicine practice, sort of a part-time one until then, but after the near-death experience, it was in a hospital in Hawaii where it happened, but I really was shown how to work with the light and in my practice, in the context of my practice. And so, I mean, I came out of that experience just, a totally changed person. And that's when I retired from my mainstream business career and got into spirit medicine full time. And shortly after that, I discovered shamanic work and just took like a duck takes to water with that. I just totally knew I had come home with the shamanic work. So I studied with the Foundation for Shamanic Studies and also Sandra Ingerman in Santa Fe, and I specialize in soul retrieval with and without the assistance of Sasquatch people at this point. I incorporated them after several years, and the near-death experience was just, it changed my life. I don't know how it would be different if I hadn't had that, but it's pretty wonderful after having it, although the experience itself was a bit traumatic at the onset, but it was beautiful, and I learned how to work with the light, and that is what the Sasquatch teach also, so it's no coincidence that we've worked closely together in the last 10 or 12 years.
You call them interdimensional. Is that a good word?
Yes, they are interdimensional.
And so that means if somebody goes out there, they may or may not see them or see them partway, or they can just immediately disappear or appear.
It does mean that. That's exactly it. I've sort of learned, and as my practice has matured, learned that it really has to do with, a lot to do with the consciousness or the beginning consciousness of the human. They rarely show themselves to someone who is not at least, tweaked an opening in their heart. It's all about heart with them, about being in your heart. In fact, they don't hear you or even connect with you in any way if you're not in your heart. And so that's what I work with people a lot, is learning how to be in their heart so they can maximize their connection with the Sasquatch people, because they have so much to teach us, and it's, we benefit from opening our heart to them.
Was that part of the issue with your health issue?
Was what part of my health issue?
Did that heart have anything to do with your health issue?
No.
I'm just curious, because sometimes people have a heart attack and all of a sudden, they come back and they're like, oh man, I'm just, all of a sudden I feel so much more appreciative and grateful and lucky, fortunate, whatever, loving, then that it's a transformation that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, well, I did all that. I experienced all of that as a result of the near-death experience. The attitude of gratitude and everything that you're speaking of. It wasn't because my heart did stop, but it wasn't from a cardiology standpoint.
Yeah, it was just one of those issues.
I was injected with a substance I was highly allergic to, and I died.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
Surprise. Well, but then again, you came back and you redirected. When you deal with people, because you consult and you talk, you're a practitioner, and you also do. There's a podcast or a video, a vlog on YouTube. Speaking of Sasquatch,
right? It's on the Fur and Cedar channel. It's one that I've co-anchored for probably, I don't think we have 8 episodes on there, but Chris and I, he was the producer, writer, director of Letters from the Big Man, the film that you mentioned. I think it was filmed in 2010 or 11. We decided, we got to be friends and everything, but we decided we'd like to do a podcast different from what the other podcasts or YouTubes that you see, and there's just multitudinous ones on the internet about Sasquatch. But we wanted one where we shared the precise words of the Sasquatch, not when we're sitting there for a half hour chewing the fat about Sasquatch. And that's what I say. I don't speak for the Sasquatch. They speak through me. And so I don't go mainstream and just chat about Sasquatch. I want to keep their words pure, and I do so in the process of my practice. I can explain that later if you'd like me to. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, and I put a quote, Sasquatch opening hearts one human at a time.
That's what they're doing.
Well, and so part of this has to do with like the example in the film Letters from the Big Man, where she goes out into the wilderness on her own, completely and totally isolated from all the, all of the normal stuff that we put up with every day, email and technology,
Yeah.
which makes this really helpful. And then she reconnects, and as she does that, it's the place is just beautiful. By the way, that area, that place where she's at, is beautiful country. But it's a different way of being, and a more down to earth and I guess empathic connection you have as you're out there, forced to kind of rely on your own instinct, your own intuition to feel your way.
Right. Well, you're connected with all the wild things out there. It's a lot easier to do when you're out in the forest like she was. He filmed it in southwestern Oregon, mostly a lot in the Rogue Valley, but I mean, the videography on that film is exceptional. It really is incredible. But she experienced the Sasquatch out there. It was quiet, and they chose, for whatever reason, to connect with her on a heart level. And I think it shows in the film as it progresses towards the end of the film. I mean, it changed her life. And it does change people's lives. When you are in the presence of the Sasquatch, or you can feel them around, it doesn't have to always be when they're fully materialized. It doesn't have to be when you're standing here next to you. They can be next to you and you don't see them. But when you are in their presence like that, there is a radiance from them. And I've heard literally hundreds of people or hundreds of testimonials about how wonderful, I mean, wonderful is not the right word, but you feel when you're in their presence. And it's like a warmth from the inside out. It's a radiance that I've said it's like the difference between a wood stove heating you on the inside and electric heat trying to heat the room, but you never get warm kind of thing. And it's just incredible to be in their presence.
You're familiar with the film, the Patterson-Gimlin film that was about 50 years ago now. Have you've seen that or seen the pictures from that?
Yes, I'm very aware of that film.
And that, they say that's never been disproved. Is that similar to what a Sasquatch looks like?
Yeah, that's a real film. That's a real film. I don't know. Yeah, that is. It is real. It is real. I've done quite a bit of telepathic sacred space work around that film. I don't feel at liberty to really share it too much in a public interview, but it is. I know quite a bit about what happened there.
Well, and that's the thing here. The guys who took the film never backed down from it. I think one of them is Bob is still alive. Roger died, and it's changed his life too. We're going to have to take a break, but I want to come back. There are some audio clips I wanted to play so that Kathleen, so that you could hear them and give us your opinion.
Yeah, Bob Gimlin, yes, he is still alive. He just celebrated his 85th birthday. He's a good friend of mine, actually.
Well, yay. Okay, well, then you do have the inside scoop.
Kathleen Jones Odom. A quick break. Kathleen Jones Odom died in 2018, but this interview was special.
I think that when people have these kinds of experiences, they're completely and totally looking the other direction, and it hits them in the face. Because that's the way you open somebody's mind. You don't give them what they expect. You give them the thing that will surprise them most. And then life gets really interesting. The Patterson-Gimlin film changed their lives, and they have not been able to debunk it. So for 50 years, this is our best look, best glimpse at what appears to be a Sasquatch. And you just said that you're friends with Mr. Gimlin?
Yes, I am.
And did he disclose that this was an extraordinary event for him?
Yeah, he did. I think it was extraordinary for anybody that sees it and believes that it is the real deal. It is the real deal, but I mean, I don't know how many people are going to believe me saying that, but it is the real deal.
Well, it helps as an experiencer. I mean, it changes everything when you've had an experience. And that having the benefit of having that when you were a kid, also it gives you kind of a preset of not just going back and falling into everybody else's beliefs. There's not a pattern there, in my opinion.
In the context of my spirit medicine practice, Wendy, I have been given the ability to regress in time, and so I can actually go back. And it's a peripheral part of my practice, but I'm not a past life regression person, but I do believe in that. But I can go back to an event and actually be there. And describe what happened. Yeah.
Okay.
So I can tell you it was real. But
Yeah. Well,
there's a lot of stuff that hasn't really come out, but it's not for me to have it come
will
out.
it? Will it come out?
I hope so.
Is it going to be something that after he passes, these things will be shared?
I don't know. I can't speak for Bob. He's a very dear man. I care about him a lot, and I don't know what to say. I don't know. I don't know when it'll come out. They had a big gathering down in Willow Creek. I think this past weekend. For the 50th anniversary.
Okay,
Yeah.
Kathleen. Does he do interviews?
That's probably online, huh?
Does he do interviews? Yeah.
God, I guess he does. Yeah, I guess he does.
Okay. Okay. Fine. All right. We'll see if he wants to share anything.
Yeah, I don't mean to be vague, but
it's personal.
Yeah,
it's personal.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, it is.
I
I just feel like he's a really good friend and a client, and it's not for me to really talk about too much of the work that I've done with him. I think people can respect that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But if
Yeah.
I were to ask him, then he could decide one way or the other.
Right. I'd be happy to recommend you to him if
Okay.
that would help.
Thank you.
Kathleen Odom Jones. She died in 2020. I didn't edit all that information from the show.
I want you to listen to some of these. These are the audio. And again, this is because of the 50th anniversary. I picked up some information off of the internet, audio from some of these encounters. We're going to play a couple of them just so you can get a feel for this. So we're going to play a couple of them. Go ahead, Martell. Okay, and then there's another one here. Now, this is another one. I wanted to just identify this because this happened in 1973. A little boy and girl rode their bikes through a forested area outside of, is it Puyallup? I don't know. You know it, Kathleen?
Is it Puyallup?
Oh, good. There you go.
Washington?
I've never been there, so I'm like, oh, I'm set at disadvantage. I'm going to have to pronounce this darn name.
It's by Mount Rainier. It's between Mount Rainier and Tacoma.
Okay.
In Puyallup. Okay. It's a big Sasquatch place. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. Well, they went there. They were at a gravel pit area. They stopped, and there's this big, huge creature walking across the road. They say it looked at them and then continued into the forest. They rode home. They were scared to death. What happened was then a couple of guys went out there, and they said that the being had been doing moonlight shrieks just in the middle of the night, shrieking, and they believe that this was the peak of that episode. And then a resident went back there, Marlon Ayers went back, and this is what he recorded. Okay, so basically these are the collection that they have that they believe are the sounds of Bigfoot, and I wanted you to give us your overview and what your perspective is on those.
Yes, they are. There was a lot of static there with dogs barking and everything, but yes, those are. I've heard those exact sounds or close to the exact sounds, and other sounds too. But yes, I would say so. If you needed my stamp of validity, I'd say that. Yeah, they're real. They're real, and I don't know the sources, but it doesn't make any difference. Yeah, they're real.
Well, and
I've heard that. I've been in the midst of that. Yeah.
The thing that they also talk about hearing like sticks or wood, very hard, like wood knocking together, campfire, trees crashing, that kind of stuff. What is that about?
I mean, what are the Sasquatch trying to tell the people? They're just making themselves known, and sometimes they do make it known that they don't want you to be in a certain area. Just a couple of nights ago, we have house guests right now. We live in Southern Oregon, but we have a house guest, and just the other night, my husband went outside to take the dogs out or something. He says, "Oh my gosh, they're right out in the canyon out here," and you could hear the Sasquatch out there. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but he told the guests, he says, "Well, there they are out there." We didn't see them. I mean, it was dark. We didn't try to go out and see them or anything. But yeah. So that's how they sound. And wood knocks. But I have to say about wood knocks, so many people that want to have a connection with Sasquatch, or probably more specifically want to take their picture or get a footprint or
selfie.
something, which is a waste of time. But anyway, they go out knocking, with sticks and stuff. And I mean, I hate to laugh, but it's not the way to connect with the Sasquatch. It's not what you do; it's who you are and how you've opened your heart, and that you want to connect with them, to hear what they have to say, or to learn from them, not to glorify yourself or to get a picture to go make money on the internet or somewhere, or get footprints or anything. It's not about that. They want to connect with us as people because we are their younger brothers and sisters. And at some point in our past, we all lived together. And, I mean, you can hear the Native Americans, many of them talk about, in their stories, especially in the past, of their living peacefully with the forest people, or let me tell you, they never called them Bigfoot, and Sasquatch, and, that's not their God-given name necessarily, but Bigfoot's sort of a disrespectful name.
So how do you connect? What are they looking for in a human? Should we be frightened? Is this something that maybe we need to do a little more research before we say, okay, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm ready to talk to you. Wait a minute, no, not yet. What do you think?
You're asking me right now how that is?
Yes.
Yeah. We shouldn't be frightened. Let's not let fear block our connection with them. I can understand. I mean, some people are fearful, but there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear at all. But if you go out there I wouldn't be walking out there with a gun.
Yeah, there are groups out there that they want to go shoot a Sasquatch to prove they exist. That kind of thinking probably is not a good idea. So we'll get that out of the way right off the bat. If you are out camping and you are going to be in an isolated area, most likely you're not going to experience this. But if you are in an area where it's known to be a place where they hang out, this is Washington we were talking about, what would happen if you wanted to make a connection? You sat down and meditated and said, I am here. Can you speak to me? What would happen? What's the odds of having some kind of an encounter?
They're probably not really good if you haven't sort of gotten your heart in the right space. And the issue with our hairless human people is that we, especially as we've evolved in the 20th and now the 21st century, we think that we are the superior species on the earth. And if you go back to the indigenous peoples, most of them don't believe that. They believe we're all one with, whether it's a tree or, they believe in the, all one concept of we're all here to interact and live together and, benefit one another. And our species, we have come to think that we're superior. And if you go out in the woods and think that we're the superior species and that the Sasquatch, or some people say Bigfoot, are animals, good luck with that one. It's not going to work. It really is an inside job.
In the film, it was a lot more humility. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She wasn't trying to, actually, it wasn't even something she was thinking about. She was much more curious and then just seeing what would happen.
Right. She wasn't thinking, how is my potential interaction with these people, or I don't know, but anyway, with these people, how's it going to benefit me? You never got that that's what she was thinking. It was like she was just fresh to this experience and just sort of let it happen in awe. And you could tell that she really felt that radiance that I speak of from the Sasquatch inside. It just does something that's transformational to your inside. And so anyway, going out just looking for one to take a picture of it doesn't really cut it.
What is Sasquatch consciousness?
Sasquatch consciousness, it's the all one, that we're all here to live peacefully on the earth together, and they're coming out more and more, showing themselves, because our species really hasn't evolved. I guess if you're talking about the latest model of iPhone, you think we've evolved, but basically, consciousness speaking, we've devolved, and they're really here to help shepherd in the new wave of light that's coming across the planet. And, I mean, we could have a whole discussion about that. I don't want to digress into that. But, I mean, that's what they're here to really help us. We need help, and they can help us. And they're very patient. They're very wise. They're very simple but profound. Their words are amazing. I never know. Each session, I don't have a specific expectation, but I know it's going to be really, really cool.
What's the most outstanding information you've gotten? Just in this show, we don't have a lot of time, but something that stands out.
Oh my gosh. Just, how much they really care about us. I mean, I can share some of their exact words, about some of the environmental changes that are going on the planet.
Yeah.
If you'd like me to, I can share a little bit about that.
Yeah.
They've said it's been difficult for all of us. No species has been spared. The greed and fear must transmute, or there will be complete destruction. This is a pivotal time. When the human consciousness enlightens, then the reversal of destruction will begin. We have specific, important ideas that you humans need to learn and live. Just ask us, and we will help you in ways you could never have imagined. It is critical to submit your intelligence to your spirit. You have to be in your heart to make a connection with them. Mm-hmm. And what I do in my work is, because I've been able to have this beam of light between me and the Sasquatch, I can really share that with the client, and it really expands that connection, even if it's just a little spark. I mean, we have all the spark of light. Everyone has a spark of light in their heart, and the Sasquatch, you're hoping that we can return to that and expand on it. And so that's what I do. But what happens is, usually after a session, and I do not promise this, but I'd say more likely than not, after a session when that connection has been expanded and deepened with the Sasquatch on behalf of the client, they then have direct, whether it's a vision, a dream, a gift, or maybe even a physical sighting. We really don't want to say that, because I don't want people to think they're going to have a consultation and then go out and see and hold hands with the Sasquatch. It frequently happens because that connection has been expanded. Then anyway.
Yes, it does happen.
Yeah.
We're a minute out of this. Kathleen, I got to let you go.
Current links are in the description for the show.
It does change people's lives. When you are in the presence of the Sasquatch, or you can feel them around, it doesn't have to always be when they're fully materialized. It doesn't have to be when you're standing here next to you. They can be next to you and you don't see them. But when you are in their presence like that, there is a radiance from them.
Kathleen Jones Odom died in 2018, but this was one of my favorite interviews. I love what she says about Sasquatch. I've had my own experiences, and this interview is worth revisiting. Thanks for listening.